Welcome back to Down on the Farm with the Boys. We are the boys. This is your Texas Ranger. This is where we cover all things Rangers minor league, your one-stop shop for all things Texas Rangers. So this is your boy Kev, aka YBK, and man, do we have a hot show for you this week. We got our normal top 10 list, and throwing in there, we've got the Arizona Complex League now, and we're about a week behind on all of that, but they've had some time to compile some stats, so we have some actual real data to talk about with these guys. So there's a ton to talk about today. Thank you for joining us on our exclusive content and for being one of our farmhands. Just as excited, probably more excited than me, is my co-host, the 300-pound manimal, aka Bull. How you doing, buddy? Where can you find you? Where can they find you on the socials?
Well, I mean, they can find you at Kevin Frazier, because you forgot to tell everybody.
Kevin Lee Frazier.
Yeah, Kevin Lee Frazier. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me at Manimal Bull on Twitter, Instagram Manimal300, and both Facebook and TikTok at Bull Pro. As you can tell, I'm not at my normal normal spot. I'm out on the road, maybe just spending money. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm hanging out. Just got in the car and took off. I ended up last night in Las Vegas. I decided to book a suite for a handful of days, so here I am in Las Vegas.
The Manimal is in Las Vegas. If you know Bull like I do, him popping up in some random place in the United States is nothing new. If we have a little bit of problems with our video, both of us feel like we're both having some connectivity issues. I've reset everything, done everything, so we're gonna do the best we can with what we've got, and we're not gonna miss a show. Also, don't forget to check out Texas Rangers with the Boys on social media. TX Rangers WTV. Don't forget to check out the website, TexasRangersWithTheBoys.com.
That's all one word.
And right here on YouTube, you can see us at Chilltown Hoops. If you are watching us on YouTube right now, that means that you are one of our subscribers, and we want to thank you for that. Well, we got some minor league news to talk about. I don't see why we should waste any time. This is a no commercial, no nonsense, all content, paid subscription. So let's get right into baseball and no frills it. We got the list. Let's jump right into AAA, which only AAA guy on the list this week. So we might as well just hang out in Round Rock for a little bit to kick the show off. Andrew Knapp is your Round Rock player of the week. Round Rock's 25 and 18 at the PCL. I'll turn it over to you.
The Round Rock's having a really nice season. It's just not a ton of prospects. Andrew Knapp isn't a prospect. He's played big league baseball before. He's been a big league catcher in the for an extended period of time. He's not a prospect. A lot of the guys in Round Rock that are successful right now at the level aren't prospects. So it's not real easy to just come on and put Ranger prospects on here. I almost put Owen White on there. He had a really nice start last night. 5 innings, 1 hit. 1 run, did walk a couple of guys, but really nice bounce back to see him go back down to AAA and have a really nice performance after getting roughed up at the big league level. Andrew Knapp has been catching a little extended time right now because Sam Huff is dealing with a knee injury, and he's really taken advantage of the opportunities that's been given to him. He had a really nice week, couple of home runs. What a big league catcher should be doing at the AAA level. And I don't know that Andrew Knapp is going to work himself into the Rangers' plans for this year, but he's down there. He's having a good year for AAA Round Rock. AAA Round Rock is having a good year. So it's, it correlates, and the pitching has been pretty decent considering a lot of the guys are kind of just on the fly, throwing dudes out there. Barraclaw and the guy they signed last year or last week that was old Mariner. They brought Chase Shreve back. So they've brought some guys in. They've got some big league talent at the minor league level that just doesn't have a place in the big leagues right now. And, they're trying to find out. And the Rangers right now, it's a mash unit there. in the Rangers rotation, bullpen, everything. Also, Johnny Cueto made an appearance this week for Round Rock. 92. You know, I mean, what would you say? Like he had that movement that a big league veteran has. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows how to make it run and he knows how to make it move and you know, wouldn't be shocked to see him at some point helping the Rangers. Not the rotation, their bullpen at this point, right? I mean, like, I mean, it doesn't seem like it really matters who they send in there in the rotation. They're getting a decent outing from them outside of Leiter. And we've talked about Leiter to such an extent on the regular show that it's not worth talking about it right now. But like when you're getting into that situation, you've only got so many guys that you can even think about putting on your 40-man roster at this point.
Yeah, average age right now at Round Rock for their players is hanging out somewhere around 28 and a half years old. Yeah. So just a lot of veterans.
Well, and that includes, having Leiter and White there that are guys that are 23, 24, Huff the same 24, 25. So it really shows that they're really in need for some pitching, and Round Rock is where they're sending those guys, and hopefully a couple of them will pan out to where they can help this thing in the bullpen right now, because it is in dire straits.
Yeah. Rangers only have a small handful of players. Really, the youngest players on that Round Rock squad is going to be Mark Church and Damian Mendoza at 23, and you got a handful of 24-year-olds. Some of them, are going to be permanent fixtures there, most likely, and some of them are hurt. So, Round Rock definitely,
and they're catching.
Probably the player that we could, if we were to talk about a prospect, Dustin Harris right now, probably the top prospect there at AAA position.
That's not great.
Yeah, what's that?
And that's not great. He hasn't been hitting the ball with a whole lot of power. If you're going to be a corner outfielder, corner infielder, you really gotta put together some power at some point. But maybe it'll come. But yeah, there was a real reason why a couple of weeks ago when we all thought Dustin Harris was going to get that call, that it was Jonathan Ornelas, because he just hasn't been hitting the ball with enough authority to be in a big league lineup right now. And that's saying something, considering who the Rangers are putting in their lineup right now. Yeah.
Dustin Harris splits are pretty good, but like you said, power's not that great, but he definitely still on a few bases. As far as the on the pitching front, I mean, with the injuries with Kelly and Church, and then obviously, that kind of just starts to whittle things down. Now, Grant Wolfram's still pitching up there, right?
Yeah. He lots of walks, though. He's got to get those walks down. When he doesn't walk people,
it looks like he's starting to turn for the positive.
Yes.
Every time it seems like he gets to AAA, he seems to get lit up.
Yeah, it seems like he pitches everywhere but AAA. Maybe just skip over him and bring him up to the big leagues and try that.
Yeah, and then Aiden Anderson's still continuing to pitch really well. I bet you money. It wouldn't shock me to see him get him to get it back at it. Very much like his brother did last year. But yeah, impressive. I would say impressive coaching has to be part of the deal here, just because if you got a team that's so transient like this and they're still 25-18 finding ways to win ball games, it's been they've had some guys, but not a ton to talk about at the AAA level. I mean, we got Blaine Krim. I think they've had the same issue with injuries too that the big league squad has, because they've had some injury issues as well that's kind of derailed and caused them to have to go out and get extra players and so on and so forth to keep guys on the field. So kind of a thing going on. But why don't we just jump out of
real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
You talked about coaching. Is it Doug Davis? Is that who Doug Davis? I want to say.
I think that's who we're talking. Yeah.
Doug Davis he is a good minor league manager. He's been around the minor leagues for a lot of years. And that's why he's here, because he's a good manager of talent, and he keeps a level head at that AAA level while he's watching all of his best players walk out the door.
Yeah. Doug Davis is the coach there, and so nice work with him. Why don't we just hop right up to Double A Frisco, which again we've talked about how much of a pleasant surprise this fairly. I mean, this is a young squad. Now you're talking about average age is around 24 here, so you're really talking about a young crew, and kind of like what the Rangers did a couple of years ago at this level. It seems like they're trying to put a certain group of guys here and let them kind of get a little bit of some familiarity together there. And the player we're going to talk about coming in at number 9 is someone who's easily on our radar as a definite possibility this year. Rule 5 eligible, been on this list a couple times. Dane Acker. Before you go off on Dane Acker, we might have some new farmhands. So give them a quick kind of like just a quick cliff notes of like the Rule 5 draft and why why we might look at a Double A guy right now like a Dane Acker. What kind of all there's a lot behind this. It's not like, hey, Dane Acker, he's doing good. What does Rule 5 mean, and what does that have to do with his
Well, after 4 years of being in an organization as a college pitcher like Dane Acker is, he's in his 4th year in the organization now with coming over in the Heim trade with Elvis Andrus. He once you get to that 4th year, after that 4th year, you are Rule 5 eligible. Dane Acker was Rule 5 eligible last year. He was, but he wasn't ready. He'd only pitched a handful of innings at the Double A level. They decided to leave him unprotected, and he made it through the Rule 5 draft. This year, Dane Acker is not making it through the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft. There are a lot of teams that are looking right now and seeing that this guy's out there in 5 innings, striking 7, 8, 9, 10 guys out. And he's having a really nice year so far with Round Rock. I know he wasn't part of the decision the other night in his outing because he only worked 4 2/3, but it was a really good 4 2/3. He, maybe a couple too many walks. That'll come. That'll get, again, between him and some of the other guys at Round Rock or at Frisco that we'll talk about here in a minute, they've got bulldog mentality down there. They're not out there just giving in on 3-2 pitches. They're out there throwing their best pitch, trying to get guys out with that 3-2 pitch instead, trying to get a swing and miss, and not just challenging them right down the middle like you would see in a lot of levels of minor league baseball.
Yeah, and with Dane Acker, like you were kind of mentioning about, he's sitting around 5 walks per 9, which is way higher than you want to see. But he's also K-ing 13.5 per 9 and only giving up 6.5 hits per 9. So kind of like you said, not giving in, really kind of wearing, you kind of just kind of like you said, that bulldog mentality. I can't help but notice the name sitting around next for what reason on how I sorted. I stood by the age, and it's just in all season that has kept kind of jumping off the page at me a lot like Acker, but he's got a little bit of the same issue, which is probably why they've been hesitant to even look at him. But Robbie Alstrom, 25 Ks over 17 innings out of the bullpen, 13 Ks per 9. But yeah, very much like Acker, he's at a 7.5 walks per 9, but he's only given up just a tad under 6 hits. So that's not going to play at the big league level. We've seen enough of that.
No, he's got developing to do. Robbie Alstrom is a good piece, and he's going to be a big league pitcher at some point in the bullpen, but it just isn't right now.
6'8", right, or something like that. 6'5", 6'7". He's a big dude.
Big dude, and he's got good stuff. He's got good stuff. It's just now he's got to figure out that his stuff is better than the batters at the plate.
Yeah, we see this a lot. Well, let's take a quick because we're probably not going to. Well, we'll be back to talk about the position.
We'll be back because number 1 or 2 is Round Rock. So.
Yeah, we got another Round Rock guy coming up here in a second, position-wise. So let's bounce that. Any other pitchers, though, at Round Rock? Well, never mind. Let's move on. We're going to hop to, for the first time this year, and we might camp here just a tad bit, to the Arizona Complex League, coming in at number 8. I'll let you kick this one off because you've been talking about this guy for 2 weeks.
Well, it's Pablo Guerrero. He got his first home run at the Arizona Complex League. He'd had a really good first week and a half or so. He slowed down a little bit the second half of this week, but I decided to put him on there anyways because of the good week he had. And on top of that, he's playing first base right now, which is out of position for him. He's learning a new position just based on need, really, because that's what the complex needs right now as a first baseman. And we talked about this early in the year when we did the first base top 10. This is a team that doesn't have a whole lot of first basemen in the organization. So getting a guy like Pablo Guerrero to start working at first base and maybe moving his skill set there similarly to how Toronto did with his brother, I mean, there's a good possibility that he'll stay there.
Yeah, Pablo Guerrero. Now, one other quick player that has kind of stood out offensively, and I think we've got a pitcher to talk about a little bit later, but
we have another position player to talk about later on. Yeah.
Well, then let's jump into these pitchers here and see if there's anything worth talking about as far as down at the complex league. Now, interestingly enough, you don't just get prospects here. You also get kind of developmental guys down here as well. What's a guy named DJ Peters at 28 years old doing at the Arizona Complex League for the Rangers? Do you have any clue?
DJ Peters was an outfielder for the Texas Rangers a couple of years ago.
Oh, interesting.
Remember those bad? I think it was the 2020 year, maybe 2021. One of those really, really just awful years that the Rangers had there. DJ Peters, huge power, but couldn't put together enough to keep himself on the field. He went to Korea or Japan to try and continue playing as an outfielder. And I guess he kind of developed some pitches out there that decided to give it a shot at the bullpen. Has a big, giant arm. Now it's going to be about figuring it out. And that's why he's at the complex right now instead of, playing somewhere in the outfield.
What an interesting little project you got going on, because he's so far, I mean, obviously we're at the complex league, but so far so good with DJ Peters. Now,
and it isn't like he's some experienced pitcher or anything like that at 28. So it's not like he's going in there with a heads up or anything like that. It's just, he's kind of just learning the craft right now, and the Rangers are willing to give him an opportunity with that big arm.
Yeah, not a whole lot more moving and cracking.
No, it's young. I mean, they're young. They're gonna learn as they go, and we'll get a real feel for them as the season goes on. But they're playing. They're keeping the team in it, and those complex league, they're hitting right now. They're scoring some runs. So they're keeping those pitchers in it, even though they're not really like super performing or anything like that. But it's also hard because they're getting like 2 innings. They're not going to get 4 or 5 to really get in the groove of a game. They're kind of starting to learn how to stretch out and stuff like that.
Well, we'll stop back here at the complex here in just a couple of minutes, but let's go ahead and jump back to AA Frisco. Now, we had talked about some of the pitching at AA, but we do have a player who had a amazing week at Round Rock, and I think it's good. I mean, it's a player we've talked about periodically,
right?
But the guy that hasn't really kind of jumped off the page or kind of made a turn yet, and it's possible that we might be seeing that turn happen right in front of us.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think we're talking about Kyber Rodriguez, right?
Kyber Rodriguez, yep.
I think a lot of it is just he has been underperforming, getting at bats. Things aren't going real well. And this week, that BABIP started turning in his favor. And, he took his batting average from somewhere around the Mendoza line to somewhere around 300. So he had a really big week, spraying the ball all over the field and getting an opportunity to kind of not have, knowing that, hey, I'm hitting 200 and I'm still in the lineup most every day. they like me. They want me to be here. They put him on the prospect team the spring breakout team earlier in the year. So they like him. They like what he brings. He's a middle infielder. He's got a really good glove. Now it was more about trying to figure it out at the plate. And I think he's starting to figure it out at the plate.
Well, yeah, because he leapfrogged pretty much everybody in about a week. It looks like in terms of
it was a good week. It was a good week.
In terms of OPS and just all in all, I mean, he's had about 48 plate appearances, which is about half as many as his contemporaries, or maybe a third. But that's still a big jump to make in a week, and it maybe could be in showing that maybe he's starting to see some things and making some strides at the plate. Man, Cody Freeman just keeps hitting at Double-A.
Yeah, he's a hitter. That's what they were. I mean, he hits the ball hard. He's everything is scorched that he hits. I mean, he does. He just hits the ball hard and he hits it all over the place. And I really thought that he was going to develop as a catcher, but he's turned it into a nice little third baseman over there for Frisco this year.
Yeah, and we can't forget about Aaron Zavala, who is just it's not it's not
steady.
Like this, but it's like it's climbing. Like you're starting to see the slug is starting to climb a little bit. But
he's still getting on base.
Yeah, more than anything, the on base percentage has been moving in the right direction. The batting average is going up. So and he's producing. I mean, 23 runs batted in over 33 games. So I mean,
Kellen Strawn had another nice week this week.
What's that?
Kellen Strawn had another nice week this week. He continues to play better baseball these last couple of weeks. So, yeah, the Rangers, they're kind of, or the Rough Riders, they're kind of finding out what they've got, and they've got some good hitters, and we're still kind of waiting for Abimelec Ortiz to really take off. But I think we're going to see it. He's got the power. It's legit. He's, been struggling as a young guy at an upper level. I mean, I think Abimelec might be 21 at tops, and like you said, the average age there is somewhere around 24. So, he's just he's learning the grind, and it's tougher in the Texas League because you're starting to see everybody's real top prospects. Once you get out of, a lot of guys don't make it out of A-ball. They don't keep progressing with the team. They don't get that opportunity to keep going from A-ball up into Double-A, and they definitely don't do it going low A to Double-A in a year time. So that's one of the big things with Abimelec right now is he's just trying to put it together there. And I don't know if I lost Kevin. Did I lose you, Kev? So until Kevin gets back on,
you didn't lose me. I gotta take care of something real quick.
Oh, okay. I was running out of things to talk about, and I didn't want it to, turn into a slowdown. Once we get past Kyber Rodriguez, though, number 6 on that list is Larson Kindreich. This is a guy that he's been steady all year out of the Hickory Crawdads bullpen. Finally going to showcase him this week after another just really good week from Larson Kindreich out of the bullpen. He's a left-hander. It's good to see a left-hander having some success down there at the at Hickory. Although Hickory is, they're just kind of starting to come around offensively. I really do believe that the pitching staff there at Hickory is really starting to come around, and I could see them, really starting to turn that corner, just like the Hickory team last year. Whenever I don't know, it got to a point where they had lost like 10, 12, 13 games in a row, and then 6-8 weeks later, they win 10, 12, 13, 14 games in a row. They lose and go ahead and win the second half of the Sally League last year based on those young guys that started to really turn that corner in the second half of the season. Larson Kindreich is a guy that started to turn that corner for the Rangers right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with him if he moves up to Double-A this year, because I think he's on a repeat with Hickory, if I remember correctly. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him kind of start making some moves there now for the move up, or make that move up to Frisco. So Larson Kindreich, man, he's just he's a guy. He's kind of been on our radar. He's a big lefty. We've been looking forward to seeing him, and now that we're seeing him a little bit and seeing him out of the bullpen, he's really coming and showing up every night that he gets the opportunity. Number 5 is a newcomer to the list. He's a newcomer to the organization. He's been with the organization since last year's draft. We're talking about Alejandro Rosario. He was a Miami pitcher last year. He has good velocity, has trouble in the strike zone. But what I saw from him with Down East this past week, really nice stuff. Really good start for him. And hopefully that's kind of the start of Alejandro Rosario moving into that Down East rotation and get an opportunity to throw 5 innings every week.
So where did the Rangers get Rosario? You said he's kind of new to the organization.
His 5th round draft pick last year. I believe that he was after Skylar Hales in the draft last year. Big arm, throws 97, 98, 99 miles an hour. Now it's about kind of focusing in on.
He's the Miami guy.
Yeah, I just said that, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I remember when they drafted him, he was kind of a project. Maybe was a starter in college, but the Rangers had thought maybe that he might end up being more of a bullpen kind of guy as far as like when they were talking about after they drafted him. And I kept asking about him, so it's really cool to see that.
He got a late start out of the complex earlier in the year, and now that he's getting his opportunity, 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 run. Nothing wrong with that. You can take that every time he goes out on the hill.
And again, you're starting to see this with Down East that, the pitching, it has been really good, especially with the guys logging a lot of innings. I mean, you can just go down the list here of guys who, have low earned run average, pretty decent Ks per 9. It's just a ton of guys. You got Lobus, Cole Drake, Jose Gonzalez, William Borney. We've talked about him before. Paul Bonzagni. We've talked about him before. And then you move up to Brian Mendoza, who's also pitched really well thus far. And then, of course, you got some other guys who may not be striking a ton of guys out, but they're not walking anybody. And David Dava. We've talked about him a few times. So, but what we're seeing from Rosario, though, it sounds like he's putting the whole thing together because walking a ton of guys, striking up a lot of guys out, and again, probably has a little more experience than most of these other guys.
Well, and last year when they drafted him, I remember watching him pitch at Frisco that night that me, you, Bullman all went out to the Frisco game, and we're watching Texas versus Miami from the regional, and Alejandro Rosario's pitching right then, so we're kind of like seeing it as it goes, and I mean, big arm. Miami didn't trust him a ton from a starting rotation point last year, mostly because of the walks. But if he gets that kind of settled down and he trusts his stuff, he's got better stuff than most of these kids at double or at low A Down East have ever probably seen.
Yeah, and while we're hanging out at Down East, I don't think we had an offensive or a position player to talk about, but Glider Figueroa, batting average is still kind of low, but man, the on base is still there. The slug is still there. The OPS is still there. He's at nine home runs already, 20 years old, 9 home runs in 35 games. So he's kind of, been really good. And then we've talked about Jesus Lopez.
Still
hitting, stayed really, really consistent. It wouldn't be a show. It really wouldn't be a show without him. And then we talked about Vargas, Eshedri Vargas, Eshedri Vargas, and then another guy that we haven't talked a lot about, left fielder, first baseman, second baseman, looks like a guy they got from the international pool, Eric Alvarez, been with the team since he was 17 years old, and looks like maybe he might be starting to come around a little bit. He's got more than just a handful of plate appearances at this point. We're not talking about, a few games here, 77 plate appearances, and he's slashing 325 or 292, 325 and slugging 403, still in a few bases. So a few good things to talk about here at
you want that ops to be around 800 for a really good player, and that's about where Eric Alvarez is right now. I don't know that he's going to continue to be that hitter his whole career, but as it goes right now, you're seeing him kind of really compete down there at Down East.
Yeah. So a lot of these international signing guys, man, it can take them.
And that what you were talking about with the Down East pitchers, that's really what this show is a lot more about this year than we did last year, is getting you familiar with these guys that are in the organization that you're not going to know about. You don't know about these guys because no one knows about them. We don't know that much about them. We just want to get you familiar by watching these box scores, watching whenever we get a chance on MILB TV, and focusing on these guys that are going to help this ball club at some point. And some of them may never, but at the same time, there's going to be a guy you're going to be like, oh man, where's this Ryan Lobus guy from?
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh yeah, they talked about him a handful of times. He was striking out 7-8 guys in 3-4 innings at Down East. So
yeah, one other guy.
He's already got promoted to Hickory too.
Another guy before we hop out of Down East and head to Hickory. Brian Magdaleno, we've talked about him a handful of times this year. Man, if this kid can get the walks down, it looks like nobody can hit this guy, man. He's hitting 17 Ks per 9. But again, kind of like the same thing that we've talked about with some of these other pitchers with big arms, having trouble keeping the ball, keeping the walks down. So moving on, let's move up to number 4. We're going to go to Hickory for this. We already talked about Larson Kindreich a minute ago, so we talked a little bit about the pitching at Hickory, but now we're going to get to position players. So the team leader in plate appearances, and then also slugging at a 719, pretty much leading the team as well, OPS is at 719, walking.
And rising.
Yeah, walking a lot. The power's starting to come around, which is what we've been kind of chomping at the bit to see. I'd say one of our favorite guys to talk about because of the, as you say, light tower power and just very, very toolsy player. Yaison Morabel coming in at number 4 this week. Man,
2 big weeks in a row.
Yeah, and if he stays healthy and this keeps going this way, man, we're gonna be excited about this guy here very, very shortly.
Well, last year before the season, he had put on about 15 pounds or so and really looked good going into the 2023 season. And it ended up being kind of a loss for him at all levels. Missed most of the season due to injury. And it was kind of like right at this point of the year, too, when he was starting to come together and put things together, and it was starting to come together for him. And then all of a sudden he loses the year to an injury. This year, hopefully, as long as everything will stay healthy, we'll start seeing that power come in, and we started to see it this week.
Yeah, Morabel is, and let's not forget the guy steals bases. He can stretch out, a double into a triple. He can score on a double from first base. He can score on a single from second base.
And he plays all 3 outfield positions at a premium level. Yeah.
And yeah, lots to like about him. While we're hanging out, now not a lot of hitting going on
not a ton, yeah.
Hickory, but also too, like it's also important that we at least give you a kind of an update on first person I want to talk about, Sebastian Walcott. He's been going in the right direction, to be honest.
Yeah, he got benched yesterday though.
What's that?
He got benched yesterday for loafing.
Well, probably a little frustration. Probably the first time in his whole life that he's ever struggled and played against guys that were eye to eye with him in terms of ability. So probably a good thing. But he has been kind of turning in the right direction. You're starting to see some of those numbers climb a little bit. He's popping up with highlights on my MILB app on there. And then as far as, Anthony Gutierrez
He's just getting back from injury.
Okay.
Had a pretty decent week at the complex last week before he moved back out to Down East. So hopefully coming off an injury, get things right and get himself back into the sky, stratosphere as his stock rises.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the other names that we talk about, Cam Cauley, Yossi Galan, still kind of struggling, haven't really broken out.
And Cauley's just getting back from an injury. Galan has really been struggling. All that all that positive that we talked about last year with him not chasing and becoming a more disciplined hitter has all went out the window this year. He's right back to that kid at Down East that was swinging at everything a couple of years ago. So that's very unfortunate because we like his power. We like what he brings to the table with that, but he's got to have other aspects in his life, or he's going to end up like DJ Peters throwing in 28 in the Arizona Complex League because he's out of ideas on the field.
And who are we talking about here?
Yosi Galan.
Yosi Galan. Yeah, it's because there was a point this season where we were optimistic about him because he was walking, hitting for a lot of power, and you look through the stat line and you got to see, he's eight of his 14 hits have been for extra base hits, but he's only got 14 hits and
100 plus at bats.
Exactly, plate appearances. So that's not gonna play, and you're not gonna be able to move up anybody's depth chart playing like that. So why don't we hop right back over to the Arizona Complex League? Now again, this guy made the top 3.
He's a little older. He's a little bit older, but he's on here for his on-base percentage this week.
All right, well, let's talk about him.
I believe it's Luis Messis.
Yes,
he's Messis.
A
kid that they got from the White Sox that they had just released outright. They'd given up on him basically, and he had made it as far as Double-A with the White Sox. He's still 23 years old, so he's not an old guy. And to see him, the discipline was so much better at the plate than watching his highlights last year from Birmingham. And I know it's the complex. I'm not crowning him after 4 or 5 games that he's played now, but he's on base at a 625 clip. I don't care if it's the complex league or if it's major leagues. 625 for a week on base to go along with some hits on top of those walks, and just kind of trying to figure it out. And I'm pulling for this kid to figure it out because there's a ton of potential. There's a ton of talent. Now it's just about him, getting on the road in the Carolinas and proving himself again and working his way back.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing not to like about him. I mean, definitely has power, has shown the capacity to hit for power. Just really hasn't been consistent. I think that's just been the big key for him, is just not being consistent. A lot of strikeouts, but if the discipline can start to come together for him here with Texas, and who knows, I mean, change of scenery can make a huge difference. And in 2022, he batted .284 and he slugged .447 at Double-A and Double-A and High A, and hit 15 home runs and 39. You heard it right, 39 doubles. And he's
that's
not
what
little.
I'm saying. Like,
He's
that's
16,
why I'm.
He's 32.
He's on this list for having a 625 on base percentage last week in the complex, but he's really on this list because he's a guy in this Rangers organization that no one really even knows we have, that everybody needs to know, especially when he's on his way towards the Carolinas or if he's heading towards Frisco.
Well, you know who else is hitting really good thus far? Leading the Arizona Complex League in plate appearances. Played a little bit last year at the Arizona Complex League, but has come out really hot this season. And that's going to be Esteban Mejia. It looks like an international signing from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Slashing crazy, 462, 554, 544 on base, slugging 795. Ops is, video game 1338. But I think the key here is that he's also the leader on the team, behind, right ahead, just an at bat ahead of Pablo Guerrero in plate appearances. So it's not like this guy just came out and had one good, one.
Well, and he had been with Carolina a little bit, or down east a little bit this year, and struggled there. and wasn't ready, but they wanted him to play baseball in April. They didn't want him to have to wait all the way till May. They wanted to get him out there, get him on the road, see how it goes for him. And it didn't go very well, and that's okay. That isn't always what the minor leagues are about, is it going well. That's not always. A lot of times it's about failure and getting your S together, you know?
Yeah.
But with Mejia, he's ready to play stateside, but he wasn't ready to play at Down East just yet. Now that he's got a little bit of confidence, I wouldn't be shocked to see him get sent back out here in the next couple of weeks. Now that he's gotten some at-bats, he's shown some confidence. He's shown that he can hit, especially with Braylon Morrell kind of struggling off the bat. But that's okay. That's not what again, that's not what we're doing here. We're teaching Braylon Morrell how to become the next big left fielder in the game of baseball. That's what we're trying to do here. We're not worrying about whether he's hitting 170 or whether he's hitting 350. We're worrying about making sure that everything at the plate is the same every time. His routine from the time he gets to the ballpark to the time he leaves the ballpark is the same every day. That's what the Texas Rangers are doing right now in the complex. I mean, they play on fields out there that are worse than high school baseball. They're not out there for the fans. I mean, I'm not swinging back through Phoenix on the way home to watch some ACL. It's not happening. It's just, it's for these guys to learn how to be big leaguers, and not just big leaguers. It's for them to learn how to take that grind of going out on the road in the Carolinas, in the Sally, in the Carolina League, and then working their way through the Texas League. It's about that. It's about finding out where these guys are. Most of these guys are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, besides DJ Peters, of course.
Right.
But for the most part, these are just young guys that are learning how to play baseball at the professional level.
Yeah, one more quick name that we've talked about multiple times, came into the organization at 16 years of age, and he's off to a scorching start as well. In half the plate appearances that we just mentioned, with only 22 plate appearances, but already with 3 home runs and slugging .778. Yeremy Cabrera, we've talked about him a handful of times already. So just a good thing to kind of make note of him. Outfield plays all 3 positions. International signing, came in when he was a little kid, man, 16 years old, and he was playing. Like he was
still
playing.
A little kid.
He was playing.
Still a little kid.
He was out there at 16 years old in the Dominican Summer League playing dadgum baseball. He had a really nice second year down at the Dominican Summer League. Played for both teams, and looks like the Rangers thought, hey, let's give him a crack at the Complex League, see how he does. So far, the big thing here is we're seeing the power, which it was pretty good last year, but through 3 home runs through 6 games. That's nothing to get. It's only 6 games. Oh, wow. But it's still something, man. 3 home runs.
Yeah, well, and it's nice. And Yeremy, we knew last year when we were talking about him that this is a good young player that's going to be a good player for a lot of years. And it's just about watching these guys develop at this point. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're getting a chance to see these guys develop.
You can't tell me Yeremy's hitting that many home runs and he's still at 155 pounds. I guarantee you.
I bet he's closer to 175. 155 might have been what he weighed when he was 16.
Right. 5'11". I bet you anything. I'd be interested to
at 5'11", if he's still weighing 155 pounds, I can't hardly imagine 16,
that totally makes sense. But
I
guarantee you now he's probably pushing 175, 180.
He's been what did you say? He's 20 years old?
No, he's like 18. Yeah, he's
so
still
that means
18 years old.
He's been with the organization now for 2 years. Yeah. So he's been in the weight room with actual weight management, personal trainers and so there's no way he's still at 155 unless he was like 120 when he came into the organization, which I've seen stranger things. I've seen stranger things, but I don't think the Rangers are actually out there signing a whole bunch of 120-pound kids.
Yep. Well, Baker Barroso also having a decent little start.
He's moved out to down east now. We've been talking about Becker for a couple of years now. He's an interesting piece because he could play like 4 or 5 different positions, and catcher being one of them. So he's an interesting guy.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of start to close it out. We got our top 2 guys.
Event.
Yeah, man. These guys, both of them, man. It's good to see it, right? Like, it's good to see it. I mean, right now with the big league club having the struggles that they're having right now, where these guys are giving us something positive to be excited
and they're the positive out of. I mean, I know the Rangers, their farm system, we're finding positive things to talk about it every day. But when you're looking at the actual top 10 prospects in their organization, things aren't exactly going super great for those 10, 12, 15 guys. So when you see a guy like, who are we talking about first? Emiliano Teoda.
Yeah,
when you see Emiliano Teoda go out there and he's got 101 on the fastball, that's a 2-seamer that runs, and then that's not his best pitch. That curveball is definitely his best pitch. It's a straight up hammer. And let's be honest, I am shocked at how well his changeup has come along in this first year of throwing it. Last year when we were on the show and we talked about Emiliano Teoda, it was a not even a thought that he would move to the bullpen because he has fastball curveball combination, and that's what he has and that's what he throws. And it was a 4-seamer. He's moved it to a 2-seamer. So now it's not straight. It's not coming in there at 100 miles an hour, just right down the middle of the plate. He's throwing it on the outside part of the plate and getting run back to the inside. He's throwing it on the inside part of the plate and getting guys to chase back. So Teodo, like, for whatever else has been going on with the Rangers prospects, he has been a bright spot among bright spots. And, last year at this time, we were worried that he wouldn't be able to stay in the starting rotation. And now there's no thought of that at all. If he gets moved out of the rotation now, it's because they need the help in the bullpen. It's not about whether he can or can't pitch in the rotation, because he's got really, really good stuff. He reminds me a lot of Neftali Feliz. That would be
That's
a good,
nice
like at Double-A when going to Frisco back in the day, you never saw guys come out and dart the ball at 100 miles an hour, and then Neftali Feliz shows up and he's throwing it 100 every time. And you just weren't used to that, and that was coming out of the starting rotation. I mean, Neftali Feliz moved to the bullpen because they needed him in the bullpen, and then moving him back to the rotation after that was a disaster.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Teodo just a little bit. The earned run average is fantastic at just a tick above 2.5, 10 Ks per 9. I think the walks are a little high, but I mean, him and Dane Acker, the wild thing is that him and Dane Acker are pretty much like neck and neck when it comes to just overall, like really just their averages per 9, the whole 9 yards. So you got 2 really solid 1-2 punch at Double-A right now. Really, I mean, Ben Anderson is not anything to take anything away from him.
No, he's having a really nice season.
Yeah, as well. But man, these 2 guys are bona fide prospects, and Teodo has been at the top of this list every single week that we've been doing this, because he just puts good start out after good start. And kind of like you said, the walks are a little high, mainly because he's not giving into hitters. Because
you see that a lot where on 3-2 pitches he's throwing either the changeup or the curveball because he's confident in those pitches, and that actually, sure, you'd like to see the strikeout or you'd like to see some weak contact, but at the end of the day, they're not resulting in like runs and he's walking a guy here and then he's working right around it for the most part. So until it becomes a real issue that he's walking the bases loaded and putting guys on all over the place, I'm not going to worry too much about the walks, especially with him not really challenging hitters straight up and going after the outs in 3-2 counts.
Love it. Well, let's get to our number 1 player for the week.
He's been there before.
Yeah, and he's probably the number 1 guy in the organization this year, I would say, just in terms of just his overall performance and really just the gaudiness of every statistical category you can possibly talk about. He has been just incredible. And I really think like his timetable, because of what we're seeing right now, because the difference between him and every other good pitcher on this list thus far is that he's sitting at about 2 walks per 9 less, and all the rest of the numbers are the same, and the earned run average is down. I mean, you're talking at let me and again, if you've been keeping up with this, unless this is your first or second week on Down on the Farm, you'll know who this is. 13 Ks per 9, 3 walks per 9, half a home run per 9, six hits per 9. This basically all the good numbers that we've said about each player thus far. He's got them all.
Yeah, he's got them. Yeah, they're all the same for him. Yeah, like his worst numbers are better than most guys' best numbers.
And let's also most innings pitched of any guy that we've talked about thus far. So
going 6 almost every outing.
Logged the most innings, lowest earned run average of all the guys that we've talked about, most wins of every guy that we've talked about thus far, which again tells me that, I mean, he's 22. It's not like he's 18 or 19.
You remember last year when we talked about this kid, we said that he could have the best arm in the Rangers organization. Now, I don't think that's still true. I think Emiliano Teodo's arm is better than his, but Winston Santos is a pitcher.
Yeah.
Winston Santos is learning how to pitch, and he's becoming a real effective one-type pitcher.
Yep.
And the stats are saying that, and I know he's at Hickory. That's a long ways away from the big leagues. But we saw this last year at Down East when he was there before he got moved up to Hickory. That command, he was the best guy in the Carolina League last year for the first part of that season. Yep. And this year at the Sally League, he's been the best guy in the Sally League pitching wise.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really kind of not even close, and it was very similar last year with Down East, and I'm not talking about the Rangers pitchers.
Yeah, I'm talking
about the whole league. Yeah, so Winston Santos has been fantastic. Let me go ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep talking over you. I'll let you finish.
Well, Winston Santos has been fantastic, and we're just trying to keep that ship on path. We don't want it to find an iceberg in the middle of the Atlantic on a cold January or April evening or whatever, like the old Titanic.
That was very poetic. Let me tell you something. Let me say something about Santos. The most impressive thing about him this year is yes, obviously the numbers, but something else that needs to be talked about. Last year at the Sally League, he logged 23 starts. And over that time period, he had a 629 earned run average last year. Absolutely struggled. He was only striking out 8 batters per 9 innings. The walks were down, which is good. It shows that he wasn't going to just go out there. He was trying to keep the pitch counts low. But home runs last year were at a 1.7 per 9. And he was giving up 10.7 hits. So, like, the fact that he's bounced back the way he has and just completely dominated the level that he struggled at last year, I think that's the most impressive thing, is that it shows that he improved. Whatever he did.
Progress, yes.
Yeah, and last year and this year, I mean, it's, like, huge. I mean, you go from 8 Ks per 9 to 13. And then you go from 1.7 homers per 9 to a half.
Well, and remember, we talked about this is not about always having the greatest numbers. It's about seeing these improvements from players. It's about seeing Winston Santos struggle in the Sally League last year and now be the most dominant pitcher in it. It was about seeing Winston Santos struggle a tad bit when he moved up to Down East from the complex in 2022 and then seeing him in 2023 be the best pitcher in the Carolina League. So that's kind of like what I was trying to, equate it to, is that, you want to see these guys learn. You want to see them get ready for the grind of professional baseball. And you're kind of seeing that with Winston Santos. And I wouldn't be shocked if in the middle of the year he gets a move at some point to Frisco.
No, I almost think if he keeps going this way, what else do you do, right? Like there's no other.
No, and especially with Brock Porter being at the complex and all of that stuff, he's the guy there, and he's the guy there in Hickory, and he's going to be for at least the next handful of weeks or month or so for sure.
It almost seems inevitable, right? Because you've got some guys at Double-A pitching really well right now that are kind of guys that are on the cusp. Mm-hmm. Triple-A is signing guys off the street at 30-something years old to come in and eat some innings. And you got guys now at a couple of guys at Hickory that are pushing, kind of pushing themselves into a position where, hey, like maybe we need to see what this guy's going to look like.
Well, and we've seen that the Down East kids are all pushing those Hickory kids too. So
exactly.
They're moved, and so how it is, low A pitching, high A pitching. You start to see where the men separate themselves from the boys, and now we just got to find out what we have once those guys get where they need to be.
Yeah, don't be surprised if you see a Winston Santos and a Joseph Montalvo end up sneaking their way into.
No doubt. Montalvo is a guy that we haven't talked about a whole lot this year that's having a tremendous season.
Yeah, and then also probably you might see Acker and Toyota end up at Triple-A, and
probably so, just based on the fact that they're both going to be Rule 5 at the end of the Acker already is, and Toyota will be this year. So
cool.
It's a lot of the reason why a couple of weeks ago Bubba Hoopy Tuia Natoa was available to be traded is just these same things, that these two guys are Rule 5 too. So if you keep both of them on the 40-man at the end of the next year, you don't have room for Anthony Hoopy Tuia Natoa, and you might as well get a piece back for him instead of letting him go for free.
I'm only laughing because my kid got a hold of a remote control, and he's putting the Mavericks replay of that Oklahoma City win. He threw that on the TV, so that's what he's watching. He changed it.
I watched that last night with some real Luka Doncic haters.
Man, oh man. Well, it's funny that they exist. I mean, I guess I can see it because Luka definitely is. He's very vocal, and he can even be frustrating for a Mavericks fan. So
agree. But I wouldn't rather have any other player in the NBA on my team.
No, I love Luka Doncic, and go Mavs. Well, hey, let's wrap it up here. We're coming up against it. Man, this was fun.
Real quick.
This was fun, man.
Oh, definitely. It always is every week. I mean, I kind of mailed it in this week a little bit on the list just because I'm on vacation, but we still had quite a bit to talk about. The Down East are traveling to Charleston this week. The Hickory are hosting Asheville. The the Rough Riders are hosting the Midland Rockhounds, and the Express will be on the road to play the Sugarland Space Pirates, or whatever the hell they are.
All right,
Space Cowboys. Sorry, Space Cowboys.
I'm gonna sign us out real quick and give you just a quick bang around the league. Arizona Comp ACL team 5-7 right now. Down East 18-18. Hickory 14-24. Frisco sitting pretty at 23-14, and the Round Rock Express sitting at 25-18. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to our farm hands for subscribing. We love you guys. For the 300-pound manimal, this is your boy Kev. This has been Down on the Farm with the Boys. We are signing out, baby. We're signing out.